applying line weights to a isometric or a perspective becomes a little bit harder to do. That is, it starts to become very difficult to describe what is in the foreground, what is in the background. We could argue that maybe this surface is in the foreground and this surface is way beyond back, or maybe this surface is in the foreground and this surface is way back. Or we could even say that this corner is what's closest to you, and the kitty corner, what's beyond this, what we can't see, is the furthest back. So this might be the heaviest, this might become the medium, and what we can't see becomes the lightest. Correct? Now, since it is very difficult to say or distinguish which is what, a lot of times in isometric drawings and perspective drawings, we apply line weights to describe the hierarchy of objects. Okay? So we could say that this overall thing is one object, and then we have the surface of said object, and then all of the little minute detail or the back plane of the object. So in that way we could try to distinguish the line weights that way. Okay, so first things first, maybe we would go ahead and outline all of the objects. So the cube that you drew yourself might be what would be popped up in the picture plane. Since this part right here recedes back, I'm gonna do this. Okay, and then this wall right here becomes the defining edge of the object. Up across this side, same thing, that defines the edge of the object. And then going across this portion right here. Now here's a little bit of argument. We could, right here, say that that's a no-brainer, because that's the edge of the object. But if we recall, in our elevation drawings, we chose to go around the cutouts to express this face. In this case, however, since we're trying to describe the overall object, maybe we'll go around each of the edge. What that means is that instead of going through all these sawtooth, I'll just go ahead and oops. Ink out what might be the perimeter of this thing, right? So now this starts to pop out as a object itself. Next, we're going to describe what the surface would be. So the surface, which is the elevation, I have this elevation right here, this elevation right here, and this elevation right here in this plane. So I'm going to describe that as this guy right here. Come around. And for this I'm using an 05. I use the sign pen for the perimeter. And there, I described this face. This face matches this face, so I'm gonna ink that portion. Okay, in this plane there is also this, which is the equal plane as that. So I will go ahead and ink that portion out. Okay, so now this surface starts to pop up. And since I can't distinguish between this is the front or this is the front, I'm going to do the same for this face as well. If I go ahead and do the interior surface, or the face of the object, like so. I've described the face. This part too, since this is the face, that gives me the next level of depth. All of these, since these are the back plane, I could go ahead and make these into the thin lines as they are. In this case, since my print has a line weight to it, maybe I should just leave it alone. But either way, everything on the inside becomes its own line weight, which is very, very, very thin. Okay, if you recall, I said we usually go from thin to thick. Okay, so here's a problem I face right now. This is my thinnest pen, 01. If I wanted to make this plane even thinner, I can't do that anymore, right? So that's why we usually go from thin to thick. Okay, I'm going to mark the horizon line. I'll use the same thin pen because that is the furthest away from our picture plane. Okay, and there we have it. So we have the profile line. So everything on the profile, the exterior, the extent of the object that you're drawing would be profile. Profile line is this guy right here, and then we have the elevation line, which might be these guys. So elevation, nope, which would be stuff like this, or this would be the elevation line. And since we're describing this side too, I might as well put that here as well. Okay, and then we have, let's just call it the back line. So back line is these guys. Back line. Whatever is not the surface or the profile is the back line. Okay, and there you have it. This is how we would apply line weights to make your perspective or your isometrics pop up.